Here we go, here we go, here we go. I believe we are live, and hey, the flux capacitor has been fed some vegetables, and we are live for Pixel Chatter number 48. Can you believe it? Pixel Chatter's about to turn 50. I don't know, what are we going to do to celebrate our 50th show? Don't know what we're going to do, but it should be pretty exciting. All right, so as some of you already know, because you were on the test live stream last night, we did a test live stream last night because I finally got Apple support. I've been using a computer troubleshooter who's sort of a friend of mine, known him for years, and we tried many different things, and finally I managed to get Apple to work with me, even though I don't have like an aftercare program or anything. And so for those of you that don't know, maybe there's somebody tuning in that doesn't know the history of the show, but we have experienced a lot of computer crashes during the show over the last, I don't know, probably 8 months. It's been ongoing since probably February, I think it started. And so I've been trying so many different things, different ways to run my second monitor, different software, with updates, we've deleted stuff, we've just tried so many different things, and finally got Apple. So what Apple did was they took the crash log data, so they logged into my computer and downloaded and transferred about 280 megabytes of something, some file that included all this log data, and the engineers looked at it and came back and said, here's a few things that we think is affecting this problem or making this problem happen. And some of it was software related, so third-party applications. So you've got to be careful putting third-party apps on your computer, but there were some applications they thought was conflicting. So we took those apps off, uninstalled them properly, which that was an eye-opener as well. So just deleting them doesn't actually uninstall them properly. And then they identified that my USB hub, which is a little hub I can't show you, it's on the back of the computer, double-sided taped on, I have to take it off. But it has 6 USB inputs, and then it has a USB 3 connector into the back of my computer. Because, of course, like most people, I have a lot of stuff that plugs in by USB, so I don't have everything plugged in at the moment. I've got USB cables out everywhere. But what that meant was that I had to disconnect that as well. They felt that was also causing a problem, and I don't know why it was only during the live stream, because that doesn't make any sense, but they said my computer's fine. It's a very powerful computer, powerful chip. The CPU usage was not extraordinary. The fans were cooling when it should. Everything else was working as it should. So there you go. We're back in action. Welcome to Pixel Chatter number 48. All right. Looking in the chat box, who's joining us? Dennis, g'day. Aussie Paul, g'day. Chance, g'day. Greg, how are you? Aussie Paul, I've already said you. Big Oz, g'day. Chris, it was great to meet you the other day, Chris. Chris came to a presentation I did over at the MacArthur Photographic Society on I think it was Wednesday night. It was great to meet you there. That's Chris's Big Oz, by the way, if you're wondering who Chris is. G'day, Susan, Tim. What apps? I had a couple in there. I had one called Reflector, which now enables you to use your phone or an iPad and reflect what's on that screen onto your computer. And a lot of the apps I wasn't using anymore. There was an MP3 recorder that I had there that I don't use anymore. What else was there? There was a heap. There was all these. Some of them were just odd little things I downloaded for different purposes and never use them. Sometimes, you see a good app, you download it, you try it. But my recommendation is if you're not using an app, just get rid of it. You can always get it back later. So there you go. Alrighty, let's get stuck into the show. Like I said, episode 48. So I'm going to start by reminding you about my Tassie trip coming up next year in May. Let me know if the audio is okay, by the way, because that was the other thing I had to reset, and I made some adjustments last night. But if you feel like it's too loud, if it's clipping, or if it's too low, just let me know and I'll do my best to adjust it. But I think it's right. Anyway, my Tassie trip next year, May the 5th, 5 days in the beautiful Cradle Mountain. And I know you're probably sick of me mentioning this, but we still have some spots available. I had another On Three Legs follower book in on Wednesday night when I was at the MacArthur Club. He's actually a member of the MacArthur Club, so that's Steve's coming along. So I think we've got maybe 4 spots left now out of our 10 spots. And I think out of the ones that are booked, 5 I think we've got 5 on 3 legs people coming along. So it's going to be a bit of an on 3 legs trip, which is fine. That's good. It's going to be good. Audio and vid, fantastic in the Northern Territory. Thank you. So, yeah, so there's still some places available. And you've got the early bird special where you can save $300 off if you book before October 15. And if you want to book, Michael, who I'm doing this with, who runs Wild Nature Photo Expeditions, he's away on a well-earned break because he works pretty hard. So he's away for about 6 weeks, I think, or 5 weeks. So if you want to book in, please just message me and I will arrange booking you in. That simple. Alrighty. And then I noticed Dennis said he was getting some notifications of live streams at 3:30 in the morning. I had to delete a whole bunch of live streams that went off by accident. I mean, if you can imagine, during the week we were testing. So we spent hours. I spent about 6-7 hours doing test live streams with Apple, and we wanted to simulate the entire process. So we didn't want to do it so it wasn't an actual live stream. We actually did it, and I think I accidentally scheduled one for 3:30 in the morning, so I'm glad none of you got up for it. Maybe some of you did, I don't know. There we go. Alrighty. Nothing like a good 3:30 a.m. live stream. So there you go. Now you may have noticed also on Wednesday, I was lucky enough to get a play of the Nikon Z7 mirrorless camera. And the reason for that is that I have a friend that works for Nikon that I had dinner with, and he just happened to have one in his hot little hands, and so I had to play with it. And so I'm going to hopefully get a loan of it for a weekend or something. I'm working on that, and it looks like that'll happen. So I'll be able to do a full test and review. But my first impressions is it's awesome. It's actually really awesome. So I had the Z7, which is the 46 megapixels, so the same sensor as the D850. You can pretty much, the image quality will be very similar. However, having said that, if you've seen the size of the lens port or the lens mount, they're going to be able to have really amazing glass on that. But for the time being, you get an adapter. I think it's about $5,000 or just over, and it comes with an adapter. So I think it's probably overpriced for the market. But anyway, I mean, it is 46 megapixel camera. And looking at the lens mount, they're going to have I think they're going to have like a 85 millimeter 0.9 or something like that, something ridiculous, So, but the lens that he had on it was a 24-70 f4. And the weight of it all was pretty good. The body itself is 600 grams, so it's about 360 grams lighter than the D850, and you could feel that, but it still felt good. Didn't feel like a DSLR, but what they have got right, which is where Fuji failed, I think, with the XT series that I had, was the grip was a good handful. So, because when the camera's not thick enough and you go to grab it, it's not thick enough to really grab. But it's where with the Z7, it's a good handful of grip, and it takes the same batteries as your D850. So, I was going to see about getting myself the XT3. I'm now in two minds about that, but the problem is the price difference. I don't know if I want to pay that much for a backup camera or a travel camera. So, yeah, I think it was. Pretty good experience. Great camera. I took a few shots with it, and the EVF inside was pretty good. I moved around a lot with it. It was everything about it just worked nicely. And if you're familiar with Nikon DSLRs, then it'll be easy to use. I think they've got it right. I think they've just got it right. So I know they always say with these first ones, there's always, they'll get some things wrong, and maybe they have. And people are whinging about the fact it's only got one memory card. I'll show you here. I've got my camera right here. Have a look at this. How many memory cards have I got in there? Okay, I've got 2 slots, but I've only ever got one memory card in there. I rarely use the second slot anyway. I've never had a card fail, and people go, "Oh, one day you will, and you'll be sorry." Well, I've been shooting for years, never had a card fail. So I don't think that's a deal breaker. I think that's just people. Here we go. Oh dear. Seriously. Okay, let me just make a note here. All right, we're going to make a note about that. that we had a crash and the time that it happened, because I can send that through. The good thing is Apple is still working with me. They haven't closed my case, so not happy that happened, but it happened, and I recorded it. So where did I get up to? I don't even know where I was up to. Okay. I'm just resetting things up again, so... Well, Dennis, the thing is, they said my computer was already... So Dennis said, I'm surprised Apple didn't try to sell me another computer beefier. They actually said my computer's about as beefy as you can get. So it's not the computer, which is good news. It's something going on that's conflicting somewhere on the computer. Yeah. So that was a bit of a bummer. Anyway, how far did we get? I don't know where we got to. We were talking about memory cards and the Z7. But anyway, I'm going to get shot for the fact that, people aren't going to like the fact that I don't care about the one card thing. I don't think it's a deal breaker. I get that if you're a professional wedding photographer, it might be an issue. But even then, have multiple cards, maybe switch them out after different parts of the ceremony. I don't know. Usually, I don't know what the answer is, but certainly 2 cards. Even when I've had 2 cards in, I've never ever done a backup right to my second card. I've used my second card for overflow. So just to expand it's a bit like an auxiliary tank on a car, just to put more fuel in. Alrighty. Yes. G'day, Rick. How you going? Yeah, so sorry about that crash. Just be patient with me. We're just going to write that down. Crash at 8:40. I was doing nothing. Because the other thing they think it might be is this webcam. So it's a Logitech webcam, but it doesn't work and play nice 100% with Apple. So that's my next thing, is to try a different camera. And they suggested using the one there's one way up here that is not a great view. Let me see if I can get that up. Let's put that in there. Let's add that in. See if that works, maybe. Let's see if we can make it work. Can we make it work? Will it work? Don't know. Yeah, see, it's doing something weird as well. Yes, it's that. That's what they're thinking it could be. Yeah, I know the audio wasn't working there, because to set it up is a bit easy, a bit different. I don't know why I'm not getting any audio on that. I'm just having a look now. I should be getting audio on it. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Let's try again. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's working now. There we go. So the other option is to use this camera, but I'm going to get a sore neck looking up here non-stop. So I was using this other camera because it just was easier. This one here was an easier camera to use. Anyway, so we'll just see how we go. We'll just see how we go. All right, let's get stuck into things. So yeah, the Z7 was good. I noticed... Let's see. XT3 grip has been improved. Yeah, well, I'll check it out. Yes, Big Oz. He was there. He had a hands-on feel of it as well. Crapping myself holding it. Gave it back to Ben. He didn't want to drop it. Yep, fair enough. Fuji with the battery grip feels like a DSLR. Yeah, but the whole idea of it is to have a lightweight setup. So getting the extra battery grip is probably not what I wanted to do. Your card fail is one thing, stream fail is another. Yeah, I agree. Well, it was interesting because last night I tested it, and I tested it like I did panoramics, I did Photoshop work, so it proves that it's nothing to do with using the computer for high intensity, high load stuff. It's just crashing for who knows why. So we will. Does Apple sell a standalone camera? I'm not sure. So this is the thing I'm going to investigate after today now, because if that's the other thing that they say might be the problem, maybe what I'll do is just get another camera. The problem is it gets quite expensive when you keep buying stuff to upgrade. Even because I keep buying stuff. Like when I bought the DisplayPort thing for the monitor, that was a $200 investment. The software upgrades, it's just costing me a bomb. Just trying to get this right. Anyway, all right. So the Z7, I'll see if I can get it for a weekend and do some vlogging with it and check it out. So I thought, let's do this. Let's do what's in my box, and then I'm going to answer a question that I got asked by Rob Roy about L brackets on cameras, and I'm going to talk about my L bracket and why I have one. What's in my box? So to my surprise, what happens with my box is I get a notification when there's mail in my box. And I headed over there yesterday, and there was a card because it was too big to fit in the box. So sometimes it's a package. I went inside, and in my box, I'm going to just blank out the sender because from privacy reasons. In my box was a parcel to the boss. I thought, that's strange. Why is there a parcel to the boss in my box? And it's because the very, very wonderful Chance Sealer over in Arizona is a very kind, generous man, decided to send a gift across to the boss. Let's check this out. So it's a number plate. London Bridge. So she's extremely grateful, and it does. It feels a little bit like she doesn't want you to go to the trouble of giving her gifts, but is really, really grateful for that, and was quite taken back by the fact that the boss got a present. So thank you for doing that, Chance. Really appreciate it. We'll stick that up. Maybe we'll stick it up on the wall above the map, and so we'll stick it up. Let's say up here somewhere for the boss, because she's always on the top, being the boss. So we'll stick that right up there. So thank you very much for that, Chance. She was really stoked when that came through. All right, which Logitech is it? It is I can tell you, it's the C922. Tim Trim? UVC glass webcam should work. UVC, I'll write that down. Is that a brand name or is that a type? Please help me. But it's a C922 Logitech 1080p camera, and it's got good picture quality. I like the fact that it focuses and it does all of that, but I think it's not 100% compatible with, because every time I start the live stream, I have to change the resolution of it to force it to do 1080p. So there's something about it that's not 100% compatible. All right. So let's quickly talk about L brackets. Now, Rob's one of my Patreons, and he sent me a message, and I think something happened with Facebook overnight where, and I read the news, there was like 50 million accounts compromised. So they've got us all resetting or relogging in. So if that's happened to you, that's why this morning. But he asked me a question about L brackets, and I replied, but I'm not sure that it went off because something funny happened with the Facebook Messenger. So I thought, you know what, a lot of people may be thinking the same thing. So he was looking at L brackets, and I don't have my L bracket off my camera at the moment, but it's on my camera. I'll take it off in a second. So this is an L bracket here. I don't know if you can see this. See this here? So that's an L bracket. And the beautiful thing about an L bracket is my mount for my camera. Let me see if I can give you a good angle there. I don't know if you can see that. See that channel in there? Okay, that channel in there, that's an Arca Swiss attachment. And so when you've got this camera, this L bracket on your camera, I'll just take it off so it's easier for you to see. So there's a couple of advantages that I love about the L brackets. Now this is a really right stuff one. I can't talk for all the others, but and I know these are pricey. So you've got to make that decision as to whether or not you want to go to the expense of putting one on your camera, because they can be a bit pricey. I'm just going to put that grub screw back in there so I don't lose it because it came right out the hole. So there's a couple of benefits. First of all, this is like a bit of a a protection for your camera. So if you hit your camera anywhere on these sides, remember your hand's usually here, this side's all protected. The second thing that you get, if you have a look here, I don't know how well you'll see that, there's these little center markers. So on the Really Right Stuff L brackets, they give you these center markers. So you know on your, when you put it into your top of your tripod, you can actually mark it in dead center. So when you're doing something like a stitch panoramic, the more central you can get your lens and lined up, the less areas you're going to have. So that, I find that's a bit of a bonus as well. The other thing is, there's a lot of area here to attach it to the top of the tripod, so I don't really need to think about it too much. I just put it on and lock it on if I'm not worried about it being center. And then when you want to swap to portrait orientation, instead of putting your camera on its side, hanging off of the tripod, which is what typically happens, and then you've got the weight is now off center, you'd simply take it out and you put it back in that way. Okay, now your camera's in portrait orientation, and then you can flip it back and do it that way. Now that's important if you're doing panos, for example. Typically you do panoramics in this orientation, portrait. So you can put the center of it above the middle of the ball head, and when you rotate it, you're getting this rotation. When it's hanging off the side of a tripod, you get this happening, okay, where it's doing a big swing. And so that can actually affect, your images as to how well they line up. So to me, there's a lot of benefits, and I know, they're not the cheapest accessory. I can't remember what I paid for this. I bought this from B&H because Really Right Stuff was out of stock. I normally buy directly from Really Right Stuff, but they were out of stock. So I found this one on B&H and I ordered it when I got the D850 because I just can't live without one now. I just love them. I've got them on all my cameras, even the Fujis. And it's a bit of a pain if you want to get into these doors here because it's hard to get in there. It's hard to open up these little flaps, so you can get in there. But that's the only downside. But, what's in there is a mic input, a USB, HDMI, nothing that I use on this camera, really. I don't use it for video. So that's that gives you a bit of an idea anyway as to why I do that and why I use that. So hopefully that answers your question, and if anybody else has got any questions about L brackets, there you go. Alrighty. All right, now there's no VIP comp today because I didn't know whether or not we'd be doing a live stream. Is everyone still there? There's not much happening in the chat box, so sometimes that worries me that maybe something's happened again. But it looks like it's all working, so I'm assuming it is. Maybe just give me a holler in the chat box so I know you're still there. There is no VIP this week because I didn't think there was going to be a live stream, and there wasn't many images loaded up by the VIPs for the challenge. Yep, still there. Good, thank you. So we're not going to do any VIP challenge announcements this week. But if you do want to participate in the VIP challenges, the way to do that is to join the VIP, which is a very important photographer group online. And the way you do that is head to patreon.com/on3legs and become a Patreon of the show, and that supports the show. So very, very grateful for that. If you head over there, you'll be able to read more about it and support the show. It is still going. Yeah, good. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Big Oz. Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Ozzy. Thanks, Rick, Daryl, Chance, Greg, Anthony, and Izzy. All getting plenty of feedback that we're still going. Okay. The other thing is I don't have a shot kit to share this week because no one sent me one in. So if you've got your shot kit you want to share with us, please send in your shot kit. And I did want to show you, by the way, if you do become a VIP, let me just show you. This was the stuff that went up to Paul Redmill Paul, who is in here somewhere, Aussie Paul, up in Northern Territory. So this is what he got for becoming a VIP. He went for the level that gives him a mug, a beer cooler, and some other goodies, including some lollies. How lucky was he? He got some sweets to get him through his day. So there you go. So if you want to become a VIP, you get some goodies as well. Some goodies. And I've got some of the new merch on. I don't know. I'm trialing this T-shirt out. I've worn it a few times. It seems pretty good. So if anyone's interested, maybe we'll get a T-shirt happening. Paul had asked about a cap, about getting a cap. So I'm thinking about trying to get some caps made up with some, with the teeth on it, like the one I wear. Have I got that in here? No, it's in the car, I think. Yeah, it must be in the car. But yeah, we'll see. we'll see what happens. The merch is a bit tricky. Doing merch is tricky. But I'll do my best if everyone's interested. I could do T-shirts if you're interested in T-shirts or polo shirts. But anyway. All right, let's jump into doing some image critiques. So if you've got a shot kit, send it in. And for the VIPs, if you haven't entered your pictures for low perspective, I don't care how creative you get, go for it. If you just get creative, put your camera on the ground, or I don't know, even if you just point your lens down, just or maybe find something like that you can shoot across, like a bench or something. Do something creative. All right. So let's have a look. Everything seems to be working well again now. I don't know why it crashed before, but we are going to have a look at some images and do some critiques. So let's do that. Let's jump in here, get my screen, share my screen with you. Alrighty. So I've got this one here from Stephen Algie. This is a shot of Merriweather Baths up in Newcastle. Beautiful shot. This one here from Jeff Clark. Funny, I had this one sitting in my emails, and it sort of had got lost. So it's actually been in there for a while. So sorry, Jeff, if you've been watching the show and I hadn't got your picture on the show. But it's a great shot, and he shot this with the 45mm tilt shift, which is how I shoot the panos. So I thought it'd be a good one for us to review. And then I threw a third one in, and this one's from Dennis Stool. Dennis is here somewhere, and I don't normally do anything but landscape photos, but I thought this was a cracking shot that we could talk about, because I just have a couple of tips that I think could have made this shot better, but not really. I'm not a wildlife photographer, so I'm just going to be making stuff up, but that's all right. We can get through that. So why don't we start with that? We'll start with Dennis's. Now, I don't have the EXIF information for this image for some reason, so I don't know how it was shot or what it was shot with or at what speed. But great shot. This obviously looks like a hummingbird. I think that's what they're called. Once again, I'm not sure. And you can see it's a pretty sharp shot, and they must have some sort of artificial feeders. I didn't even know they did that. For me, that's the first thing that I would like to see, is maybe, to me, this detracts from the image because it's not a real flower. Now, I would be tempted to Photoshop a real flower in there, like go and take another photo and mix a couple again. I know that's, for some people, is a big no-no, but I feel that sort of doesn't work. The other thing is I feel there's too much empty space over here. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this photo because, like I said, I'm not a wildlife photographer, but I am going to crop it down to what I think would make it look better. Something like that. And to me, maybe there's not enough space. I don't know. Maybe I've cut that too fine. Let's bring it back out a little bit. Just a little bit, not too much. Something like that. It would be what I'd be thinking, because there's just too much empty space for me. And you can see I've shot it at quite a high ISO. There's a lot of noise in it too. So don't be afraid to try some noise reduction. But nice and sharp. Check that out. And you've still got the blurring of the wings. So I think it's really good. Let's just do a bit of noise reduction. So, if you do a bit of noise reduction, you can see how quickly you can get rid of that noise. And if you did that in Photoshop, you could select the bird to keep him sharp and reduce the noise on the background. So I don't know how well you can see that. I'm just doing that in Lightroom. So if you have a look at the noise, I'm just going to show you there, because you should be able to see that. It's nice and blown up. And I'm just going to go to noise reduction extreme, but you can see how it removes the noise as I slide that slider up. So make sure when you look at your photos, don't be afraid to do some noise reduction. I can also see a tad of chromatic aberration there, by the way. So also look out for that, which is some purple fringing. See that on the top of the head? See that there? That's purple fringing. So don't be afraid to click the little remove chromatic aberration there as well and get rid of that purple fringing. So there you go. That's my very quick review of Dennis's picture. It's not one that I don't know a lot about wildlife photography. So that's my stab in the dark. But a couple of tips for you there. But definitely don't be afraid to do noise reduction, because you're better off getting rid of the noise if you can, and use Photoshop to select the bird. It'd be very easy in that picture to do it. All right, just jumping in the chat box quickly in between critiques. Dave, you bought a generic one from China for $20. Was that for the D850? Be interesting to know. But $20 for a generic L bracket, yeah, you can get them. And I have also bought generic ones before because for my Fuji, because Really Right Stuff didn't have one out at the time. So, and I just love them. So, wherever you get them from, go for it. But the Really Right Stuff have got 2 for the D850. This is the light version, the lightweight one. And I just bought that because that's what B&H had in stock. Sunny day on the northern beaches, lovely on the beach with a coffee and banana bread. Yeah, it would be, Daryl. That sounds nice. Rick, wondering how we in Australia now get on with the GST tax on goods from overseas. How's it paid and collected? They just put all the prices up. I don't know how they manage it, but everything's just more expensive. eBay adds it at checkout. Yes, they do. B&H and that, they just add it. I don't know how they're doing it now, but they do. Better Half won't let me in a Cabela's anymore. What's Cabela's? Cabela's must be some sort of shop, maybe? I don't know. Tim Trim, I wish VIP wasn't Facebook based. Well, it is and it isn't. The challenge is you just got to upload it into the album, but you can still be a VIP on Patreon without being a Facebook member. It just means you're not in the Facebook group, but you can still support the channel. Rick, same here. Banned from tackle stores. Loves his fishing, obviously. You had it on your 5200, D500, and D850. Okay, cool. Oh, it's a sporting goods store, Cabela's. Okay, good stuff. All right, let's jump into the next image. Let's do it. Okay, here we go. This one was sent in by Jeff Clark. As I said, it was some time ago, so apologies, Jeff, for not getting to this image sooner. But I was going through my inbox looking for images this morning and found this one that I had not done. And it was shot with a 45mm tilt shift, which is the lens that I use for doing panoramic images. For the reason that you'll know this image here would be 2 exposures, one to the left, one to the right, and then joined together. And works really, really well. And I think that that's an easy way to do panoramic images, and makes it so you've got almost like a panoramic camera, if you like, because you don't have to muck around swiveling your head around. You just quickly shift the lens to the left, shift it to the right, and then you're done. Take those 2 photos and join them together. So let's have a look at it technically, and then we'll have a look at it from a composition, etc. So technically, this was shot with, let me get in the library, get the data, here we go, exif data is shot with a Nikon D810 with the 45mm f2.8 lens at ISO 64. It's a fixed focal length, so he could only shoot it at 45, which he did, and he did 2 seconds at f9.5, which is fine. This lens has relatively good depth of field, but I did note, if I maybe don't go in at 11:1, let's try 8:1, see what happens. I did note that it looked like it wasn't 100% sharp up here, but I might be wrong. It's hard to see because if I go 1:1, that's the 1:1 size. So it's a bit hard for me to see. But I think it's sharp all the way through, but it's definitely sharp down here. So yeah, just be careful with that. You could shoot at a slightly higher f-stop just to make sure that you're getting the depth of field when you've got foreground so close to you in background. One of the challenges in scenes like this, where you want to get that longer exposure for the water, is sometimes you end up with blurry palm front. So I usually do 2 exposures. I'll do one for the water and I'll do one for everything around it. But here, because it's not a big waterfall, it's not creating a lot of wind. But sometimes you get a lot of wind that moves these fronds around, and that means you need to take a sharper shot for that. All right, so then let's have a look at it from a composition point of view. You know I love a pano. My only feedback on this pano was I feel like it could have been shot lower down, and I'm not going to be able to include the bottom, but what I was thinking was be more, let's get rid of this top section here, because this top section here doesn't really add any value. See over here? there's a tree there, just a lot of light coming in there. It just is a bit distracting. So I would have probably framed my shot to get the top of this fern in the shot and cut that tree trunk out, something like that. Now I'm going to crop it in just so... I've got to work out which way I'm going to crop it. I think I'll crop it this way. Let's do it this way. Just so it's about the same sort of ratio. Okay. To me, straight away, that's more appealing because the hero of the shot here is this cascades, and I feel these ferns here are really a good hero. And having that area that was up there that didn't really have much in it, sort of, to me, I wouldn't have bothered including that because I just feel it didn't add anything to the image. But here now, I feel like we've got something that really, is got, the hero now is featuring. I'm just going to quickly do something because I can hear my fan going crazy. Just want to see what my CPU load is. They were teaching me about this the other day, but you can see there, it's nothing crazy. We've got plenty of room left there. I'm going to put that on the other screen, so I don't want this to crash again, but we'll see what happens. Anything could happen. So, so I would crop it like that. And that would be my first tip. The second thing, I would have shot, rather than cropping this shot down, I would have probably shot a little bit lower down because I feel like this rock here is too close to the bottom of the frame. I think it would be better if there was a little bit more space there. Now, having a look at this, there's quite a bit of junk in the foreground. I would have done my best to remove as much of this as I could. Now, I wasn't there, so I don't know if you could get to it or not, because sometimes you can't. But things like, let me just zoom in a bit. Let's just do 3:1. Things like these here, these leaves and bits and pieces, just detract from the image. And see this here in the water? There's like some branch, the top of a branch in there. If you can get a hold of them, move them. If not, just grab a bigger branch and just move them out of the way. Now, my only thing I would say about moving things is just make sure you're not affecting someone's home, so a lizard's home or something like that. But here you wouldn't be. Like, this is just stuff sitting on a rock, and it's just covering up this beautiful green moss. So I would have done my best to clean that up as well as I could, and then I would do the rest with post-processing. So don't be afraid to do things like this to remove the leaves off of there. Once again, this is a personal preference. I know a lot of people, sometimes have a go at me for doing this, but to me, it's a personal preference. I'd rather have a shot where there's less stuff in the, on these sort of things. I'd rather a bit more pristine, so I clean them up, including things like, see this leaf here on this rock over here. I'll show you. If you look at the bottom right of the shot here, you see this leaf here. Even if I couldn't get to it, these sort of things are really easy to clone out. You can't notice them once they're done. So I tend to just go through and get rid of them. And to me, it just neatens the shot up. And Lightroom does such a good job now. So, I'll just get rid of these because I find them distracting. And if we have a look now, you'll see. Let's just clean that up. If I do the before and the after, see how we just get rid of some of the distracting elements. So it's up to you whether you do it or not. Ben and his gardening. It's up to you whether you do it or not, but to me, I really would prefer to see less of this stuff cluttering up my photo. So, sometimes you've got to move things around to make it work, but, it does. It's sort of, let's see if we can get rid of this big thing. This is going to be hard in Lightroom because it's a big piece of stuff, but did it. There we go. Let's do this one. That'll do. Let's do this one. Just so I can show you the before and after, because I know a lot of people sort of don't like when I do it, but let's just do it and see what happens. I'm going to find somewhere that I can put this. Let's do this one here. That looks good. No, I want something from over here for that. There we go. Let's do this one. Let's do this stuff here. Let's get that something nice and green. I don't know why it's picking that up there. It's funny sometimes what Lightroom does. Let's use that lot there. Let's see what that looks like. Let's come across here. I'm going to get rid of this big one here. What's this? Here we go. Let's get rid of this. Yep, no, not from over there, Lightroom. Let's pick something that's more relevant. Yeah. Probably shouldn't have done that one yet. Let's delete that one. I'm not ready to do that one. Let's get rid of this first. Let's do this. Let's see if we can make this work. Yep, that's good. Close. There, let's use that. Yeah, that's fine. Now let's do this one. Let's see if we can get rid of this one here. Yeah, that's better. Now let's do this piece here. Oops. Let's do this one here. There we go. And zoom out. Okay. Now I've done that really roughly, but it's going to give you an idea. Before and after. See the difference? Before, have a look at all the stuff on that rock, and after. Now, I would do that in Photoshop because you'd get a better result, but you can sort of get a feel for what I'm talking about anyway. You know, I did that really roughly, but to me, it's just a little bit nicer. The other thing is it's lacking a bit of contrast, so I'm just reading the comments. Always carry a bit of a tripod. They're almost a gasp on Wednesday when you talked about doing this. There was almost a gasp on Wednesday when you talked about doing this. Yes, there was. So Big Oz was at a presentation I did Wednesday night, and I talked about doing this cleaning up. And, you know, I think it might have horrified everybody. And Izzy says, I need a really right stuff leaf blower. I'm going to agree with that. I wish they'd make one, eh? All right. So let's see if we can bring a bit more depth to this image, because I feel like it's missing something, and I feel like it's a bit flat. So I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to bring the highlights down just a tad and shadows up a bit. I feel like the exposure could come up a little bit. Give it some contrast, some clarity. Let's do some vibrance. Yeah, that's looking good. And a little bit of dehaze just to get more clarity happening. Okay, let's get the blacks and the whites sorted. So we've got some more depth in this image. And then let's grab the clarity brush and a brush. Let's do brushing over our heroes in the shot, which is the cascading water. And these, I reckon this fern's up here. And there's green stuff in the foreground. Let's do that. Let's also give that a little bit of saturation, those green spots. And there we go. Check out that photo. Looking good. So let's look at before. So that was before, and that's after. Before and after. So it gives you a bit of a feel for, you know, just a few small changes, how it can bring a photo. Now, by the way, one of the things you've got to watch out is your monitor. Right? This, to me, is really quite washed out and lacks contrast, the before. So, you know, that contrast, if you think about when you're standing somewhere, you don't see fog in front of your eyes. So if you feel like your image is a bit foggy or misty, then just it's contrast. That's all it is, you know, and not unusual to need to add a little bit of contrast to get things looking right. So don't be afraid to give that a whirl. But hopefully you sort of see how that brought that out. But thanks for sending that in, Jeff. It's good to see somebody else shooting with the 45mm tilt shift lens doing panoramic shots, because it's my favourite way of doing it now, and it nets such great results. It's such a good lens. It's a really good lens, and of course has other purposes as well. You can shoot macro with it, and the tilt shift allows you to shoot on an angle macro without depth of field issues. So that's why they sort of develop for that and for architectural stuff to get rid of the distortion. So they're great lenses for other purposes as well. Yeah, everyone's loving Izzy's comment. A really right stuff leaf blower. That would be good if they could do that, eh? All right, let's jump back into the final one for today. And it's good to see we're not suffering from any further crashes at this stage. Touching wood. All right, let's flip over to the main screen so you can see what's going on. There we go. So beautiful shot here by Stephen Algie, who... Is he here today? I think his spanner is Stephen, isn't it? I always forget because you've got to use different usernames. Haven't seen him here this morning, but quite often he's in the live stream. Anyway, beautiful shot, Merriweather Baths, sunrise. This is an ocean baths that's at Newcastle, and overlooks the ocean, as ocean baths do. And it's a huge bath, and obviously he's got some nice colour going on. So we'll have a look at the technical details, and we'll have a look at what we could do from a composition point of view and post-processing, if anything. So let's have a look, because it's a great shot. So won't need the leaf blower for this shot either, Izzy. So that's good news, isn't it? Shot with a Canon EOS M5 and at 30mm ISO 100. So Stephen shoots all of his shots with a little mirrorless camera. So I think it's quite a good indication of what you can do with a smaller, lighter mirrorless camera, because that's all he uses, and he gets some amazing shots. He produces really nice results. So from a technical point of view, not a lot I would change. I think it's all pretty good. So let's have a look at what we could do composition-wise. My first thing that I'm noticing is distortion, and it's really obvious. So I feel like it's bowed. I can see that what he's done is pointing the camera down, and he's done that probably purposely to keep the camera higher. Because if you put the camera lower, you would lose this horizon. But maybe to me, I would have been tempted from a composition point of view, if you lowered the camera on the tripod towards the ground, these blocks could have sat on the horizon, because you just got a small gap. And so from a perspective point of view, just getting down that little bit lower could have made that. Now, it may not have, because you can't get much lower, but it could have. Yeah. The other thing, you see this fence is leaning out. Okay, so that tells me that he's pointed the lens down. And if you look at this white line on the edge of the pool, it's sort of curved. So I don't know if I'll be able to correct this, because I don't have the lens profile loaded. So I would have to find it, or find something that would work. Yeah, sort of. So the other option is just to go manual and move the distortion out. So you can see, I'll just make it worse so you can see what I'm talking about. So that's the distortion that I'm talking about. So it's not that bad, but it's bad enough that I can see it. So just a little bit to the right here. Now, if you have a look at the grid that goes over the top of that, when I do this, it'll help you straighten out the distortion. So it's ever so slight, something like that. Okay, has fixed that. Then we've got this here. See this leaning out? You can also fix that by doing this. Okay, but the problem is, when I do this, what's going to happen is I'm going to lose a lot of my image. See that? So it forces me then to have to crop it so I don't lose it all. So I'll have to crop the image, but I can remove the distortion if I use these tools. Now, if you're using Photoshop, you can actually do content aware fill, so it would fill that up. But if we look at the before and the after, can you see just the difference? It's now lacking that distortion. And I haven't done a great job of it, but relatively good. I'm not sure it's exactly straight either. So let's just see what auto does. I'm always interested what auto does. Yeah, did a very minute change. So I think that's better. So there was a little bit of distortion. The other thing that you can do is you can actually, if you find horizontally it's a bit out, see that line at the bottom? I want to make that line of the pool straighter. So I just did a little, just +3, a little horizontal, and that's just because the camera wasn't pointing directly straight. Now, if I show you the before and the after, to me, it's much more appealing when we get rid of the distortion. And I would definitely do that with my photos, because you see this fence. Look, this fence looks normal now over here. I'll do the before. See how it's leaning? Now it's straight, leaning, straight. Okay. So don't be afraid to learn how to use some of these tools inside a Lightroom, because they'll help you when you process your photos to make them look, get rid of the effects and make them look more natural. All of those effects are things that happen because of the way that your camera works. So if you imagine with your camera, the sensor inside your camera, right? The sensor in your camera is inside the camera body. When you tilt I'm trying to give you a representation here with a bit of paper. When you tilt the camera forward, the picture now is meeting the sensor at different distances. Okay, so you can see that I'm taking a picture, the picture comes in, hits the sensor, The top of the image is hitting this part of the sensor. The bottom of the image is hitting this part of the sensor. So you're getting distortion because of that. And it's not normal. It's not what the eye sees. So anytime that's in your photo, you want to try and get rid of it. That's my opinion. And it's very easy to do. You saw it took me 2 seconds to do that. So you be the judge. But to me, I would much rather fix it. As you can see, it just makes it, it's ever so slight, but there it is. It's done. Now, it means you're going to lose a little bit of your image, but I don't think it's detracted from the image. From a post-processing point of view, Steve always does a great job, so there's not a lot I could do. On my screen, it is lacking a little bit of contrast, but I wouldn't do too much at all. Just a little bit, maybe. Something like that. But I wouldn't do too much more. And that looks great. It's a great shot. I would print that, stick it on the wall proudly. Looks fantastic. So well done, Steve. Good shot. Good shot indeed. Let's just do a preview. There we go. Look at that. Is that nice or what? So let's do the before and the after. So I've changed hardly anything. That's the before and the after. It has, me doing that has distorted these a little bit, but if you didn't see the before, you probably wouldn't notice it, but you can fix that as well. Not so easily in this program, but you can in others. The only other thing that I've just noticed, I should notice before, see this haloing around this block over here? We have a bit of a look. So you've got a seagull scene there. This haloing around this concrete block, that's just a byproduct of post-processing. And it can be, usually when you reduce highlights and increase shadows, you'll get that weird haloing. So just watch that. You'll just need to go in and with a brush and fix that really carefully. And it's not going to be easy because I don't have the full res photo. But you grab a brush, and this is how I do it. You grab a brush, you just down the exposure a tad. You want to make sure that you've got, your brush is well feathered, and, turn your flow down, even your density down a bit, and just, go around and brush. Oh. Go around and brush around here. Oh, let's get rid of that. I don't know what happened there. Give me a brush. So, just go around and brush around there with something just to reduce the highlights slightly. So you got to just choose how much you put into it, how much effort. But I would do this in Photoshop because I could select things that I didn't want to be affected, and that makes it a lot easier. But I'll just show you quickly so you can get a feel for it. So I've really, I've toned everything down in the brush, so you can hardly see that I'm doing anything. But when I show you the before, so there's the before, it's distorted, but anyway, and the after. Okay, so I've just toned it down a bit, that's all. So it gets rid of that haloing, makes it a lot less obvious. So don't be afraid to do that. And that could stop things. Do I have Time Machine running during a broadcast? That's a good point. Let's check. How would I check that? You know what? It did it before broadcast, but it is running. But it's not running currently. So it did it at 8:11 a.m. Does that help, Tim? Yeah. So it was a while ago. Wasn't during the broadcast. Okay. Anyway, there we go. Besides that one hopefully I'm back. Let me just adjust this camera so you're not looking at me. In fact, I'm probably better looking that pixelated, aren't I? There we go. Oh, dear. It is either random or another process kicks in. Time Machine can make things really slow when it runs. Okay. How much RAM and free space do I have? Heaps. Heaps, yeah. So I've got activity monitor here. If you have a look at memory. So memory, I've always got heaps. So you can see I've got 32 gigabytes there. Let me show you. Happy to show you that. Let's have a look. So 32 gigabytes of free memory. Let's make it. See, it says 11 used. So yeah, that's all right. And then if you look at the CPU, That's when it crashed there. It had this big load. I don't know why it had that big load. Disk. Don't know. Don't know why it's happening. So it's a bit confusing, isn't it? No idea why it's happening. Yeah, it's not RAM. They've said my computer's really powerful. So, like I said, they've got the technical guys at Apple looking at the crash log data, and we've been trying different things. So it's good that it crashed twice today, because that gives me the ability to go back to them whilst they're still. Because if it ran smooth today, I would have said to them, "Hey, look, there's nothing wrong," and then it could have crashed next week. But the fact that it crashed twice means that at least we know there's still an issue, and I can get back onto them. There we go. All right. So thanks for joining me today. Sorry about those couple of crashes. Thanks for those of you that sent in your critiques. So Stephen Algie, Jeff Clark, Dennis Stewell, thank you for sending those images in. Please, if you've got a shot kit to share, send it in to all the details are down below the video. You can send in your images for critique, send in your shot kit so we can share that with the world. With your images, just make sure you try and make them at least 3,000 pixels on the longest edge, so I've got a decent sized file to play with and check out. Reminder about Tassie, if you want to join me in Tassie, shoot me a private message through my Facebook page or email me at the email address down below and I will book you in. It's a tremendous value. There's no other cost except for your flights to and from Tasmania. Once you get to Tassie, we take care of you. Everything is included except for alcohol. And the rest is all thrown in. So you basically get fed and watered for the whole week. You get your accommodation, all your transfers, everything is included, tutoring, etc. And we make it a great week. So if you want to come along, would love to see you there. Anything else? Oh, and if you want to send me a sticker in, we didn't get anything for any stickers for the Worldwide Sticker Board. We did, however, get this amazing number plate from Chance over in Arizona. Arizona is going to be really well presented. There we go. Woo! That's for the boss's number plate. It's going to go up on the wall above there, and that'll be pretty cool. So if you do want to send something in for the Worldwide Sticker Board behind me, it's really starting to get very well populated. Send it to the P.o. Box down below, and it will get featured in the What's in My Box segment next episode of Pixel Chatter, which will be next week. It's a long weekend here in Australia, so those of you that are here in Australia for the long weekend, I'm not sure if it's in every state, but certainly is in New South Wales. Drive carefully, double demerit points, and take care. Enjoy your long weekend, and get out there and take some photos. Until next time, see you later.